If you have no other choice but to send your child to a South African public school, I genuinely feel bad for you. Because that system is like throwing a child into the deep end of a shark-infested pool and saying good luck, except instead of sharks, it's lazy teachers, outdated textbooks, and an education system that prepares you for nothing except suffering. It's like putting your child in a steel cage match against Brock Lesnar and saying good luck. And then the people start crying, oh, but education is important, Summer. Yeah, sure. In a functional country, it's important. But in Mzansi, it's a babysitting service at its best and a soul-crushing circus at its worst. South African public schools are not schools. They're government-run daycare centers. Let's be honest. The only reason most parents send their kids to public schools is because they have no other option. It's not because they believe their child is getting a good education. Tell me one parent you know who said, I'm sending my child to a public school because my child is getting a good education. They just want somewhere to dump their child for 8 hours while they're at work. And what does their child get in return? A classroom with 60 plus students per teacher, textbooks older than their parents, and a syllabus that still teaches them how to use a fax machine. What do they not get? Life skills, financial literacy, critical thinking. Basically anything remotely useful they don't get. Instead, they're being prepared to become obedient little employees, the perfect citizens to be run by the Oppenheimer and Rupert family for a broken system that wants them to graduate, get a useless diploma, and then cry when they can't find a job in the end. And the Department of Education, they don't care. They don't care. They know that half these kids will either drop out or barely pass, only to enter a job market that treats them like disposable trash. Now, we need to talk about the biggest clown show of them all, the South African Department of Education. I've said for years now, the South African Department of Education is a circus ran by clowns. It's a circus. They're clowns. This is the brilliant government department responsible for ensuring that public schools function properly. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you something. Have you seen the literacy and numeracy stats in this country? 80% of grade 4 students in South Africa can't read for meaning. That means if you gave them a sentence like the cat sat on the mat, they'd read it and go, yes, I see words. They don't know what it means. And the Minister of Education, Angie Motshekga, why don't we talk about her, shall we? Your favorite government official. This woman has been in charge of education since 2009. That's 15 years. 15 years of failure. 15 years of producing high school graduates who can't even do basic math. I dare you to give her a basic math problem and see if she can solve it. 15 years of telling students, don't worry, 30% is a pass. 30%. You know what 30% is in real life? Failure. You know what 30% is in the world I live in? Degeneracy. Imagine hiring a doctor who specializes in heart surgery who only knows 30% of what he needs to know. Imagine driving on a bridge built by an engineer who passed 30% in their civil engineering exam. Imagine being in a plane with a pilot who knows only 30% of what he needs to know. And bear in mind, I just said no, I didn't say understand. Because let's face it, most of these kids with these 30% don't understand their work. Their mark shows it, for crying out loud. That is what we're dealing with right now. A generation of kids who are set up to fail before they even start. Now let's be fair. I'm a fair guy. You know that. Not all teachers suck. Some are genuinely trying their best. But most of them, they don't care. At all. They just don't care. Some of them are just there for their paycheck, half-assing their lessons like they're doing the kids a favor. Teachers are showing up late. Teachers are giving students photocopied handouts instead of the actual lessons. When a child asks, sir, I don't understand this, he'll be like, oh, just check the corrections in the book. Teachers will disappear for weeks and then blame the kids for not understanding the work. My teacher has been absent to teach us the subject of fault finding for the entire week last week at school. We also didn't have a lesson today, despite me seeing him this morning. And then he'll go like, give me a KFC Streetwise and I'll show you the exam answers. Some of these teachers are just genuine fools, selling grades like bootleg DVDs in a taxi rank. And discipline, oh, it's non-existent. If the teachers are like this, imagine the students. They are fighting the teachers. Schools are war zones, and half the time, teachers are even more afraid of the students than the students are afraid of the teachers. The facilities, you ask? What facilities? Haven't you learnt about public schools by now? Haven't you seen some of these schools? Broken desks, toilets that don't flush, classrooms that look like they survived Captain America's Civil War. Some students are still learning under trees. Under trees. under trees. Meanwhile, the government is busy blowing billions on tenders for school renovations, and somehow the only thing that changes is the principal's car. And the food, just don't get me started on the food. The feeding scheme food looks like it was cooked by someone who actively hates children. And I'm not even joking, from experience. If you take a look at some of the food they feed these children on a daily basis, you'd think the Christmas Grinch made that, or Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town. Just someone who hates children. Beans and pap so dry it looks like it was dehydrated in the Sahara Desert and spit on by Lesilo. And they expect kids to concentrate. How? On an empty stomach? While sitting on a chair so broken, it might as well be a death trap and a prop for WWE. As someone who goes to a public college myself, most of the chairs I've seen people sit on, I used to think these chairs were the old chairs that were rejected or used in the WWE to smack people. It's disgusting. It's despicable. Every single year, the Department of Education gets on TV and celebrates menial things like matric pass rates. This year, we achieved an 80% pass rate. Yeah, no. Because what they don't tell you is that most students drop out before grade 12. You didn't know that, did you? You're busy watching the ones who actually survived and made it to matric, and the ones who needed 30% to pass. And after passing, let's face it, half of them are actually illiterate anyway. They're not producing educated young adults. They're producing high school graduates who have no idea what to do next. And then the universities, they don't want these students. They know they're not ready. So then what happens? What happens with these 30% students? You made them graduate, and then you don't want them in varsity. Just throw them into a TVET college, let them drop out, and repeat the poverty cycle in their families. You ever notice how public schools in South Africa have become government-sponsored holding prison cells for children instead of actual places of education? Yeah, me too. And before you say, but some public schools give kids a chance at education and stuff like that, will you shut the hell up? Because that tells me you don't know what the heck is going on in there. SA public schools don't teach. They keep kids locked up for 8 hours a day, feeding them broken dreams, outdated curriculums, and a whole lot of nothing. And then we wonder why unemployment is at an all-time high. We wonder why kids are leaving school, getting pregnant with the intelligence of a wet sponge. This system is a joke. And I'm here to tell you why, because no one's doing it, so somebody's got to do it. I quote Kendrick Lamar. Shout out, he won a Grammy. All right, back to talking about Angie Motshekga. This woman has been Minister of Education for over a decade. I said that earlier. But in that time, SA's public schools have gone from bad to apocalyptic. And then she still sits comfortably, probably sipping some overpriced wine, while her kids go to private schools, and then the public schools with the poverty-stricken kids fall apart. 40 plus kids packed in a classroom like sardines. Textbooks from 2004 still being used. Math teachers who can't even do basic algebra. I bet you Angie Motshekga can't even do basic algebra. Toilets? What toilets? These schools have been doing pit toilets for years without functional bathrooms. Yet every year, Angie Motshekga gets in front of the camera in the news and has the goal to celebrate the so-called matric pass rate. As if lowering the pass mark to 30% is some kind of achievement. Oh wow, congratulations. You played yourself. You're now officially an idiot with a certificate who's not going to get a job. Listen, I'm not going to pretend that every teacher is bad, like I said, right? There are legends who try, right? I can't blame the teachers. But you know it, and I know it. The majority of public school teachers don't give a crap about your kids. They wouldn't give a crap if they had a heart attack and fell into the pit toilet they were pooping in. Some of them show up drunk. Some of them never mark assignments. Some of them want bribes. Some of them can't even spell assignment. And let's not forget the strikes, the constant striking. At least once a year, you can count the amount of times SATU, that's the South African Democratic Teachers Union, went on strike for higher wages. And while they chant and sing in the streets, you want to know what happens to your kids? Nothing. They don't got teachers. They're busy striking. They're just sitting in the classroom, staring at the walls, spitballing each other, and learning absolutely zero, zilch. When the teachers do show up, they just give them copy-paste nonsense from outdated textbooks and call it a lesson. So tell me this, if you make a child spend 12 years doing fuck all in a public school system, what will they be able to do basically? They can't even write a proper CV. South Africa's public schools don't teach. They don't teach financial literacy. They don't teach critical thinking because some kids become easy prey for some of these scams online. They don't teach basic business skills, how to be employees, how to be employers, but they sure as hell waste time on outdated subjects that will never help them in real life. I wish I made tea. My throat is getting dry. I was shouting at the kids while teaching them sports today. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Most of these kids with no teachers in class just have a free period while messing around with each other and touching girls. So instead of studying ancient Dutch explorers, how about we teach kids how to actively work in society? Why is the syllabus still from 1995? The world has changed, good people, but SA's education system is still living in apartheid-era lesson plans. You spend 12 years in school, and the best thing you walk away with is the ability to recite a Shakespeare quote? Pathetic. The facilities are straight out of a horror movie too. You can't blame the kids. Walk into a South African public school and you'll see broken windows, missing doors, kids stabbing each other with pens, bathrooms that smell like war crimes, desks covered in graffiti that's older than you. And let's not even talk about the rural schools. Remember, I didn't say rural schools, I said public schools. Now let's talk about the rural schools. Because some kids literally sit under a tree because their school has no classrooms. You think I'm joking? Go Google Limpopo schools, no toilets, and see how bad it is. You'll cover your eyes by the time you're finished. Your child's probably pooping in a dog hole at school too right now because the toilets are out of order. You send your kid to public school today? That's fine. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. But don't be surprised if they come back as a gangster who touches little girls. Kids in public schools are not just students. They are survivors. Drugs everywhere. Weapons easily accessible. Bullying, don't even get me started. You send your kid to a public school hoping they'll get an education. As you should. Instead, they'll get recruited into a gang and stab you. But parents still act shocked when their kid gets arrested for robbery. What on earth did you expect? You dropped them off at a place where violence is normal, and now you're confused about how they've turned out? Alright, I'm not gonna shout at you any further. I want to talk about solutions. I'm done lecturing you. I've lectured you enough. How do we fix this dumpster fire called the SA public school system? Stop lowering the damn standards, number one. 30% is not a pass. Raise the bar. If students fail, they fail. But at least they learn something in the process. Number two, fire corrupt, lazy teachers. If a teacher can't teach or won't teach and is there for a paycheck, then kick them out immediately. Three, massive curriculum reform. Teach financial literacy. Teach entrepreneurship. Teach actual life skills, not Macbeth and Life of Pi and trigonometry that no one will ever use. Hey, the way I'm dropping these gold bars, I think I need to be the Minister of Education. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comment section. Stop teaching algebra no one will ever use. 4, make vocational training the norm. Not everyone needs university, okay? Some kids are better off becoming electricians, coders, builders. You know what I'm saying. 5, decentralize education. Private schools and homeschooling options should be made more affordable and accessible. And finally, number 6, fire Angie Moteja. That's 15 years of failure. Time to go. Vamos. So if you're a parent, let me make this clear. If you send your child to a South African public school, you better be prepared to parent them like your life absolutely depends on it. Because if you just dump them there, cross your fingers and hope someday they'll come out okay, sitting there like a walrus hoping your child will be a perfect citizen, you're rolling your dice with their future because the odds are not in your favor. So when your child drops out, joins a gang, starts touching little girls, starts looking under their skirts, starts robbing people, ends up in prison, gets a girl pregnant, becomes a teenage parent, or worse, doesn't live to see 21, repeats your poverty cycle, don't cry. Because you've had years to prevent this, and you did absolutely nothing. Okay, now we've roasted SA public schools enough. Let's talk even more solutions, right? Because you guys love it when I talk solutions. Number 1, homeschooling. If you have the time and the resources, do it. Teach your kids. Hire them. Hire teachers. Invest. Number 2, private schools if you can afford it. Private schools are not perfect, but they are infinitely better than public schools in South Africa. Number 3, online education. We're in the digital age. Your kid can learn coding, businesses, real world skills from YouTube and online courses. He can go to Teneo. I heard that's a great online school. 4, teach your kids life skills yourself. The school isn't teaching them. You know that. So teach them. You teach them. How to budget. How to start a business. How to think critically. How to play chess. Just something to do with their time. Because if you rely on public schools, your kid will be a clueless, broke person running away from loan sharks in the future. And let's be real. Public schools aren't even public schools anymore. They don't even deserve to be called public school, let alone be called a school. Middle class and upper class families would show the middle finger to Cyril Ramaphosa before sending their kids to a public school. Even the government ministers who run this education system don't send their own kids to public school. You didn't know that? Well, now you do. You think Cyril's kids go to the public school your child goes to? Yeah. So in conclusion, public schools in South Africa are dangerous, underfunded, taught by unmotivated teachers who should just go and drink at some hotel instead of harassing our kids, and your kids are in a broken system. So what's the solution? Get out. Get out. That's literally the solution. That's literally the solution. Point blank. Get your kids out of there. If you have no choice, then at least teach your child real world skills at home. I can't emphasize this enough. Invest in online schools for them like Teneo. Okay? Schools that will actually teach them real world skills. Because the public schools sure as hell won't do it for you. So if you're a parent watching this, ask yourself this. Do you want your child to learn, or do you want them to end up as a gangster and just survive in this world? Because SA's public schools, that's the only two options you'll have. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Do you have some horror stories from SA public schools? Let's hear it. So yes, Summer Sambit said South African public schools are a cancer. They are scams. And how do you deal with cancers and scams? You cut them out, because they are turning your kids into clowns. They exist to keep people trapped in poverty and not to uplift them, and you know that as much as I do. And as long as the corrupt government is lazy and educators run the show as lazy as they are, nothing will change. If you're a parent, do everything in your power to get your child into a better school, because otherwise they'll graduate knowing nothing useful, with no future, and with a lifetime of regret. Wake up. Tell your kid to wake up. The system is designed to fail you. Is it designed to fail you? Correct! Absolutely correct. So if you don't help your kid, no one else will, because no one cares about your kid. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are SA public schools beyond saving, or is there still hope?